Your evangelical pastor was wrong. Women should be pastors and leaders and, of course, speaking in church. But let's break it down and start with the verses they use. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor, and it's raining today. So the first one is in 1 Timothy chapter 2. It says, 1 Timothy chapter 1, Paul says that women should learn in silence. He never permits them to have authority over a man, and that they should just be silent. The next one is 1 Corinthians chapter 14. It says that women should be silent in church, and it ends with this really awful misogynistic sounding statement that if they have a question, they should ask their husband. That's it. That's the whole argument. That's all the verses. And here's the thing. The problem is, the basic problem is that the rest of the New Testament just shows something very different. And just in that 1 Corinthians verse, just a couple of chapters later in earlier in chapter 11, it talks about women prophesying in church. This is a thing that happens. But really, you don't have to look very much farther than what was happening in the movement that is reported in the Bible. In Romans chapter 16, Phoebe is called a deacon. Phoebe's a woman. She's called a deacon, and it's the same word that Paul uses for male deacons. Then there's the part of Andronicus and Junia being prominent among the apostles, also Romans 16. Philippians chapter 4, again, Paul says two women's names that I'm gonna mess up, Euodia and Syntyche, I think, and it says that they have struggled alongside him in the work of the gospel, worked directly with him. Then Acts chapter 18, Priscilla and Aquila explained God more accurately to Apollos. Also in Acts chapter 21, Philip has some daughters that have the gift of prophecy. And of course, Jesus does it too. In Luke 8, Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and Susanna are said to be the people that are funding Jesus' ministry. And of course, the first person that Jesus appears to in the book of John is Mary Magdalene. He sends her out to tell the disciples that he has risen. She is the first person to communicate the gospel, the first evangelist ever. So there's all kinds of rhetorical arguments that you can make, all kinds of ways that you can talk about how these passages were quotes of other passages and all kinds of things like that. But for me, I don't think you even need that, because the actual boots on the ground things that were happening directly contradict any idea of a woman not being allowed to be in leadership, because it is a sort of overwhelming number of examples of that happening, and sort of just advocacy for women leaders in the church, as Paul writes letters and then brags on the women, right? Which is important because this is a much more patriarchal society. And so him bragging on the women gives them even more legitimacy. He is sort of advocating for their leadership. So we need women pastors. We need women leadership in churches. And we need to have all of that expressed as widely as possible, so the young women in churches, the young girls, see that they have full participation, that they are of equal value, they have equal levels of intelligence and training, and it is absolutely essential. So if you're in a place that's teaching this, I would just say try to find another place, especially if you have daughters or nieces or granddaughters.